this is something that I've learned over my last 30 years in IT, is that trust is the most important thing. This will help you get through challenges, but also the customer will work with you to give you larger challenges.
Hi, I'm Lukasz Kiniewicz, partner in charge of Heidrick Struggles Warsaw office and a member of the Global Technology and Services practice. In today's podcast, I'm excited to speak to Gurdeep Grewal, CEO of Intive, a global software company with over 3,000 employees. Intive is headquartered in Munich, Germany. With a challenging, exploratory and agile mindset and international teams of software, design and business experts, Intive partners with market leaders in accelerating digital transformation for products and services of tomorrow. Before taking on the role of CEO, Gurdeep joined the company as a senior advisor to the board of directors, responsible for growth and strategy. Prior to Intive, he led GlobalLogic's European operations as senior vice president and general manager. He has been engaged in numerous leadership roles in the IT sector over the course of his 30-year professional career. Gurdeep, welcome and thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Lukasz, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure, and I look forward to our conversation today.
To kick off this conversation, could you please walk us through your journey to Intive?
Sure, Lukasz. So I've been, I guess, very lucky being in the world of technology, and I started life as an engineer working for a company called ICL, which became Fujitsu. And I was very lucky there to actually help to create a platform called TraderNet, which was around digital exchanging of information, orders and invoices. And just to give you an example, this would be people like Marks and Spencer here in the UK ordering their products electronically, as opposed to the old days where it was done through faxes and letters. So I guess I was involved in digitization very, very early in my career at ICL, which is now Fujitsu. I then had the chance to work with some great companies like Unisys, with Hewlett-Packard, Logica, which is now part of CGI. I also recently worked with iGate and Zenzar and then GlobalLogic, as you mentioned. And all the way through in those journeys, I've been able to really make a difference in the sort of technology world. Give you another example, John Lewis, which is a retailer in the UK, I helped them to create their first click and collect application, which actually created a £1 billion business for them through that digitization. And most recently, I worked with, when I was at GlobalLogic, with The Economist in helping them to create the Espresso application, which helped digitize their magazine into a short form of information for millennials to actually get interested in using The Economist or reading The Economist subscriptions. So I think, this is something that I've been very, very lucky in helping to create digital solutions for customers. And I think that experience and that knowledge brought me to Intive, which, as you said, I started off as an advisor and then eventually became CEO in February 2020. But I think, what I saw at Intive was that they have this great DNA around helping to design and build really strong, powerful digital solutions for customers. And I think that I've been very lucky in that journey where you've been able to utilize these great skills that I've been able to pick up over the last nearly 30 years in IT, but always being in the forefront of technology, where I think Intive is today as well.
So what were the consistent leadership capabilities that got you to the CEO role of a global tech company?
So as you asked about consistent leadership capabilities, I think it's really, you need to have the ability to build and create a value creation plan for a business. And this is around a number of things. One is about what is our market and the customers that we want to work with. And also, why should those customers want to work with us? And what is the value that you're going to bring to them? And once you have that customer, I think it's really important for us to really create some sort of business delight for the customers. This could be where you have a key project delivery, quality is second to none. And this also helps you to build that trust with customers. And I think this is something that I've learned over my last 30 years in IT, is that trust is the most important thing. This will help you get through challenges, but also the customer will work with you to give you larger challenges. And I think it's also important to be brave and sometimes say no. When you can't deliver or you can't undertake a certain challenge, it's important to say to the customer that we're not able to do that, but you might be able to work with somebody else that could do that, because we all have a tendency to say yes, and then when we fail, this is when the relationships go sour. So I think it's about being honest. I think it's about being consistent. I think it's about being brave. I think it's about listening. And you don't always have the answers, which is why I think listening is important. I think the other important thing is not just the customers, but internally, you've got to have the same values for your people and your organization, and also provide them with support and kindness and love. It's really important things to make sure that you are successful in your role. And I think this is what's key to, I think, consistent leadership qualities and capabilities that certainly I use in my role at Intive.
With a focus on leadership capabilities at companies with different types of ownership, what do you think is necessary to be a successful private equity-backed CEO today?
That's a really interesting conversation now, Lukasz, to have, because everybody wants to know what is the value that you're trying to create. So let's just sort of step back and think about, what do PEs want? Well, PEs are trying to build or buy a business using monies from a institution or third parties, and where they want to provide a higher level of return and from the investment. And this is usually known as what PEs called value creation plan. I won't go into the details of what a VCP looks like, but I will talk you through the basics of it, because it's quite a large framework. It's normally about grow the top line faster than the market and make sure you've got stronger propositions. It's about manage your cost of sales and delivery better than the market, manage your overheads better than the market, manage your SG&A in a more efficient way than your competition, which then leads to a profit or EBITDA level, which should be better than your customers. And one of the things that you'll always hear in the PE world is, what's your multiple? And this is how a lot of businesses are measured, because that's where the value comes in. So if I give you an example, if your multiple is 20 times EBITDA, that means, for example, if you have a 30 million EBITDA, the value of your business will be 600 million. But if you manage your EBITDA much better than your competition, say, for example, it becomes 31 million, then straight away you add 20 million to your valuation. So you get this 1 to 20 sort of setup. So if you add 32 million, you get to 640 million. So the PEs are very focused on this value creation. They're very focused on those metrics that I just mentioned to you. And they like you to be very, very efficient in creating value, not just for them, but also the investors that have invested. And a lot of these investors are large institutions or pension funds. So they're always looking for a better return than putting their money into property or into a bank. And this is why PEs will drive every business, every CEO, the management teams, to make sure that they're creating value across all those elements I just mentioned.
Now, moving to company culture, Intive has acquired a number of companies over the last several years. How has growth through global acquisitions affected your company culture, and what are the key lessons about post-merger integration you have learned, particularly about integrating with very different national cultures?
Well, I think when you're making an acquisition, it's really, really important to review and understand the culture of the target business, so that you look at the similarities of your business and how the two organizations will work together. And in my case, this is something that I always do first, rather than looking at the numbers or looking at the customer base or looking at the P&L. I always spend a lot of time to understand the competencies or the culture or the values that any target organization has, and compare that with what we have at Intive. And this is always a very good foundation. If you get the culture right, the rest of the integration is actually easier to manage. And it doesn't really matter on nationalities or diversity, because that's actually what you're bringing into the company, is that you are bringing more diverse nationalities, different types of thinking and different viewpoints. And that actually helps you to enhance your business. And I don't think it really hinders growing the business. And I've seen that at Intive, we've gone, probably from 20 different nationalities to probably, I would say, over 100 nationalities in our business. And I think it's really, really enhanced our values as a company. But also, it's actually made it easier for us to work with our global customers, because they also have a lot of these different nationalities. So I think, cultures actually enrich your organization. It helps you with diversity and inclusion. And when you are working in a global business environment, you need to have people that have some like-minded views so that you can work in that technology point of view. And I think in my activity here at Intive, we've turned a lot of companies away where the culture wasn't even close to what we wanted. And I think we probably looked at 300 plus companies in my tenure. And, we've only bought 3 businesses in the last 3 years. That sort of gives you an essence of, just don't buy for the sake of it. You buy for companies that are going to add value, both from a culture point of view, but also a similarity of people in our business. And I think that really has worked well for us as an organization. And we also create a very clear operating model, which makes it easier for people coming into the business, and they know where they will operate, they know how they'll function with other members of the team. And also, this gender and diversity doesn't become an issue for us as we integrate those businesses. And I think having a great integration plan right from the beginning is important. And I think that tells people on the journey they're going to be in. The worst thing that can happen in any M&A, in my experience, is if we don't have a journey planned out, you will actually end up have people making their own ideas as you go along. So I think this has really worked well for us at Intive. And I think leading inclusively by giving direction, having that culture, having the value, does tendency to create great teams.
Now, with everyone talking about ChatGPT, how are you preparing for the effect of new technologies such as generative AI, both from the leadership perspective as well as from an IT delivery point of view?
Well, we're being a tech company. We have to be in the forefront of understanding how technologies can help our customers, but also help ourselves, because we as a business have to be skilled in these new tools and technologies. And you mentioned AI, and I'll go into a bit more detail. But one of the things I think we look for in our leadership capabilities in our business is to have leaders that understand technology. We have leaders that want to embrace that technology, but also translate that technology into business benefit for our customers. And one of the ways we do that is we actually appoint a number of CTOs in our organization. So the CTOs in our business are there to really help create propositions internally with our teams, but also that can help our customers going forward. So our CTOs primarily are technologists. These are people that will be looking at AI. They'll be looking at data insights. They'll be looking at content manipulation. They'll be looking at cloud strategies and how you bring all that together. And they also set the framework for training our staff in the technologies that we want to work on, where we want to run innovation days for our customers. We want to run those internally and externally, training our staff for those innovative tools, but also getting our CTO functions to build career ladders for our up-and-coming engineers, our designers, but also our executive teams, so that they're all actually in tune with the technologies that we're working on and how you can use tools like AI or ChatGPT and translating that into a benefit for our customers. I'll give you a great example. We're working with a government body in Scotland, where we're building an AI platform for people that are disabled or have problems in using normal products and services. They can speak in a phone, they can actually type in a phone, they can all use Braille via AI technologies that we've created as a real life application, so they can actually access services to help them live an easier life and a more comfortable life as well. So we're already using technology like AI to help the industry, but also I think this is key, as I said earlier, making sure that you have your people that understand why you're using this technology, what are the benefits, and how you can translate that into a stickiness for our customers, because it's not just selling to our customers, they also have users at their end that they want to get closer to. So this is something that's inherent in our DNA. Technology is what Intive is about. So when we go into an engagement, we help the customer through our design capabilities, look at visioning and visualizing what a potential customer journey would look like. And then we take our great engineers and our CTO functions to actually put together a solution and architecture to execute that. So I think this is something in our DNA, and this is something any organization wants to be successful has to have that going forward.
What leadership capabilities do you seek for your top team to manage the fast pace of innovation and the arrival of new technologies? And further, which skills and capabilities are you trying to develop in the next generation of leaders so Intive can stay ahead?
I think, as I said before, technologists is something that we are in our DNA. So anybody that's in our leadership needs to have a technology background. But more importantly, they need to have a passion on how they can help customers understand and utilize those technologies in a business sense. So it's not just about technology for the sake of technology. It's about translating that to, as I mentioned earlier, the customer journey, the architecture, but also our focus as a company is to be a leading design and engineering business in our chosen verticals. So our business leaders need to come from strong technology, but they also need to understand the domain. And this is something that we've defined in Intive as something that we call DDE, which is Domain, Design and Engineering. And everybody goes through that immersion of that methodology that we take to our customers, but also our leaders are actually embroiled in that understanding, so that they also then become leaders who build digital solutions which are real, they're robust, which actually encompass some of the trends that we talked about: AI, data insights, content manipulation, streaming. These are all things that we want to bring to our customers and actually help their customers to have answers at their fingertips, which is really where the stickiness comes in. And if you look at our model within Intive, and this is where I think technology is important in our leaders, is that we're always building bespoke solutions for customers. We're always helping to design it and build it from scratch. So as leaders, we need to understand what that means, how you execute that, how you create value in that. And then training, as I mentioned earlier, training is really, really important. So we have an L&D function that we have created across Intive globally, and it's one training platform that everybody in Intive uses to train themselves, whether they're an engineer or whether they're a designer or whether they're an architect or whether they're a cloud expert or whether they're a data expert. They are the people that actually use these platforms to build their careers, but also be very efficient and effective in how they engage with customers. So when our people go and talk to our customers, when they talk to the very first person, it could be a salesperson or a sales leader, this person will have a technology bias. When they go and talk to our CTO, by definition, there will be a technology bias there. When they talk to our solutioning architects or their technical architects, these people also will have a bias around technology. So you can see this is DNA that we build at all levels. And then our business leaders come in through with design and domain, and they also are architected to having the same knowledge around this DDE platform that, as I mentioned to you. So it becomes like a DNA that, a culture that keeps spreading and spreading through the organization. And I call it a gene pool. I think creating that gene pool in your company where everybody touches the elements I've just talked about makes our leaders much stronger, makes our technical people much stronger. Customers get high level of confidence that we're the sort of business that they should work with. And I think if we can then, create our leaders to also not just think about technology, and I think this is a really important part, is from an ESG point of view, what we've got to create is got to be strong economically, but socially, but also inclusive. And those are elements we also build into how we build our organization. We need to have that diversity, inclusion, as I mentioned to you before. We also need to have senior executives that are women in business. I think that's important. And one of the things I always ask my leaders to be is always be open for change and have an open mind and actually have good listening skills, because end of the day we all sometimes think we all know what to do, but sometimes you can get by listening to the right people, or even somebody that's just come into the business, they will have a different perspective. And this also goes back to your question earlier about acquisitions. When we bring in different nationalities, some diversity, you open up minds of different thinking processes, and that again adds that DNA that we create within Intive. So I think that good, strong technology DNA, that gene pool I talked about, being open to change, listening, and I think lastly, not many people talk about this, but having fun.
So the final question, looking ahead and keeping in mind what we just spoke about, what do you think is next for tech industry, and what can leaders do today to be prepared for that?
Well, this is a great question. And I think, in our industry, change is constant. We are moving from one tech to the next tech, but also our customers are changing. And as we've seen over the last few years, global supply chains are changing, and we saw that acceleration from COVID. So for us as an organization, and for many organizations, is customer loyalty is key. So as we build our leaders for the future, our leaders also need to adapt to this fast change that's happening today globally. We're seeing competition that you never had before. We're seeing how our leaders are having to deal with people not being in offices, working in a hybrid environment. We also know hiring today in our world is that you've got to have flexibility on where you hire, how you hire. And if you look at a global workforce, majority of these people are not in our offices anymore. For example, in LATAM, we have 1,000 people, where we have probably a small percentage coming to our offices, but we're in every single country in LATAM, which again, needs to make sure that you induct people, you create that DNA that I mentioned earlier, so they feel part of your organization, but also to ensure that we can move at speed to induct people, to have them involved in our business. And our leaders need to be very agile in ensuring that we have that capability they can implement, they have that tools they can implement. You need to have the platforms so that you can run a business end to end. And I think that's something we implemented in Intive very, very fast. And you also need to have leaders that are thinking about how you work going forward, how you adopt all this ESG elements into your proposition, but also think about what's the impact on your staff, what's the impact on people that will be coming into your business, but also the impact on our customers. So try and build that into our capabilities, and ensuring that the supply chains that we've created can service our customers on a global basis, but also be able to pivot very, very quickly on new technology. We saw metaverse was a very high level buzz happening, and now we have AI, which I think will actually have a bigger impact than the metaverse did have. And I also think that a lot of companies will be looking for solution companies to build product for them, rather than implementing very large scenarios in like the old days with ERPs taking years to implement. Today, our leadership and our teams have to implement products in 3 months, 6 months. And this is where I think strong guidance, leadership, teams working in a very agile, common way will create success.
So Gurdeep, thank you for making the time to speak with us today. It was a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you so much for asking me and inviting me to this.